Hello, I want to thank you for joining me this evening as we continue our web series on hot button issues in education and big topics to look at and to be aware of as you continue on in your path in education. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about diversity and equity. We're going to talk about some general specifics and general thoughts that I have on diversity and equity in education in the 21st century. We will talk a little, and then we'll finish by talking a little bit about the impact that President Obama has had on diversity and equity, not only in education, but in society as well. And I will close with some final thoughts on what I believe that you as a teacher are capable of doing in your classroom and the barriers and boundaries and things that you can overcome, societal differences and issues that you can overcome just by having a warm, inviting classroom. So to begin, the way I view education is kind of on a pendulum. Right now the pendulum is swinging towards the right, which means, and that's not politically charged or tied or any way, it's just the direction I picked first. Focusing towards the right, which means we're focusing more on tests, on results, on national scores and average and world rankings and where do we stand compared to this country and that country. We need to focus on how we can get our students to match other students in the world where kids go to school for 10 hours. We're focused on making sure that America is number one. If you think back to one of President Obama's State of the Union speeches, he addressed STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics scores, and how, for example, in math we ranked in the low teens in the world, which is unacceptable. We should be in the top, and so that created a renewed interest in STEM, and so there was a big math push, technology, engineering push to try and raise our standards and our scores in that. We do that by spending millions of dollars for students to take a test to identify what their deficiencies are and how we can improve them. We do that by telling their teachers that if not all 100% of their students are on level, that they weren't doing their job, and their principal isn't doing their job, and the school in the district isn't doing their job. So therefore, we're going to take their money, because obviously the students and the teachers and the principals and the districts, they're just not trying hard enough, because that's what's wrong. No. We need to flip the script, and I do believe that flip is coming. As the pendulum swings from the right back to the left, it will begin to focus on a more holistic approach. We will get away from and lose our grips on the assessments and the testing and the results, and we'll focus more on whole child, making sure that the child is physically, mentally, and emotionally taken care of, providing for the entire well-being of the child, providing for all of the child's needs. This will then begin to focus on involving the family more, focusing more on making sure the student is well cared for, fed, sheltered. We can't send our students to a school where the air isn't working, so we got to take care of that. Textbooks are soaked with rain and are moldy. Well, we got to replace those. The less money we spend on national assessments and curriculum plans and blanket things, the more money we then have to care for and take care of the physical needs of the school and of the students. If you think about it this way, look at it as through Maslow's. If your basic needs aren't being met, if you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you're tired, if you're cold, you're going to care absolutely little about education, about what you're listening, about what you're supposed to be learning. Until your basic needs are met, you're not going to be able to function. Education will be secondary. So if we're not meeting our students' basic needs on such an intimate, intense level, how do we expect them to learn what we're teaching and to benefit from the instruction that we're providing them? And I think that's kind of where education will be heading eventually, is that swing to a more holistic approach. We in America, whether it's politics, education, or a big national idea belief, like I said, operates in swings. The swing will come, in my opinion, and it kind of ties in with our political system, two parties. When there's Democrats in the office, and there have been Democrats for 2 terms, then all of a sudden you start to there's more vocal support for Republicans, and that starts to grow because the Democrats aren't doing a good job, therefore they're the party in charge, therefore they need to be the party that's out of charge. So you become Republican. You might see a Republican for 1 or 2 terms in the White House, and then because they're the majority, they're going to start swinging back to the other side. It's just kind of the natural way that it seems like America operates on big issues. When you're unhappy with something, you completely change your stance and your focus. when you are unhappy and the minority is the unhappy, quickly the minority becomes the majority, and vice versa. Now, let's talk a little bit about. So we've talked about diversity and equity and where that is in school. I think that really stems from a lot of inner city youth, minorities, young, one single parent homes, no parent homes. I can't tell you the number of instances of students that, for example, just this last year, one of my students came to school at 7 o'clock, walked with his little brother. And keep in mind, I teach first grade. His little brother is in kindergarten. He brings them both to school. He takes his little brother home. When he leaves school, mom's not there because mom has to get to work. When he gets home, mom's not there because mom's at the second job. It's those type of students that we really need to focus on. And you do that by creating a warm environment in your classroom, and I'll touch on that a little bit more towards the end here. The election of President Obama, do I think that has had an impact on diversity and equity? I do. I think it's more of it's a positive and a negative in a sense, and I don't mean negative in that it's a bad thing he was elected. I mean a negative in that it's really pointed out some of the deficiencies and the gaps that we still have. We've come a long way in terms of equity and diversity in America, but we've got a long way to go, as I think President Obama's election has really pointed out. And it's truly sad. It really is, in my opinion. I've got a little bit of a personal story to share with this. My grandmother, on the night that President Obama was elected, cried tears of joy. She grew up in Georgia on a plantation where her family owned slaves and had help in the house. My grandmother called her servant Mimi. Mimi was always well taken care of. She was never beaten. But as my grandmother always says, we owned her. She was our property. Obviously, she grew, and as she grew and moved around with my grandfather, who served in the Korean War, was in the military, she realized what her family did was wrong. Regardless of how they took care of her, how they felt about her, how they cared for her, it was wrong. So for her, seeing President Obama elected was monumental because it was almost I don't want to say a relief, it was a validation for her that her beliefs were right, that what her family did was wrong. Unfortunately, and I think that, that kind of speaks a little bit to the innate goodness that children have, that kids have, the idea that they don't understand what hate is, they have to be taught hate. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, with President Obama's election, it also pointed out that we have a large part of society that's still stuck in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. President Obama has allowed for young black men and minorities to realize that if you work hard, you can do anything you set your mind to. He's also allowed the country to take a big collective gulp and step in front of that mirror and acknowledge some of our flaws and deficiencies. He's championed for equal pay for women, repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and has fought to legalize gay marriage in all 50 states. Now, regardless of where you stand on those issues, this is nothing to do with political. What you have to recognize, in my opinion, is that President Obama and his policies have done more for minorities and underprivileged people than a lot of presidents put together. He's really helped a lot of marginalized people that have been marginalized by society have a voice and speak up a little bit. Now, you also have to look at situations like you've seen just this past week in the South Carolina shooting. There's instances can come from nowhere and can be completely random. But when you have a self-proclaimed white supremacist who is upset with the power that African Americans are gaining in the United States, and you have an African American in the highest seat in the country, it makes you realize that the problems and things that you still have to overcome. All right, I want to close with this. I won't take up more of your time. This is an old quote from my very first principal, from my very first teaching job. It gave me goosebumps when he said it. It's going to give me goosebumps now just even thinking about it, talking about it. But he said, you teach whoever comes in the door. As many kids that come in that door, you teach them from boxes if you're not unpacked. You take them outside if it smells, and you use rocks as chalk if you can't find pencils. Your job is to teach in spite of everything else. Provide the kids with a sense of belonging and safety, and they will give you 110% every single day. That's powerful, 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 and it's something that has really shaped my teaching philosophy and my education. As I mentioned earlier, kids are innately good. They don't have bad. They are taught how to act bad and how to be bad by examples from adults in society. So if we as teachers can provide a safe, comforting, warm environment for them to be, we can help them realize that they can overcome any problems or outside things that can affect them. I know we only can help them and control them from 8 to 4, but if we get them 170, 180, 160, 190 days a year, and every single day they come to school is a new day, and every single day they're loved and excited and they're taken care of and they're cared for, they will begin to work extra hard. They will begin to try and to trust, and then you can start pulling and getting those things from them that you might not be able to get in other situations, that their parents might not be able to get at home. It is your job to take care of them, to let them know that it's okay to fail and it's okay to be you, because regardless of where you came from, 1 parents, 2 parents, no parents, trailer parks, big beautiful white houses, neighborhood blocks, shelters, it doesn't matter. When you walk in the school, when you walk in those front doors, you are just like everybody else. You're loved, you're cared for, and you are given an opportunity to succeed. All right, friends, thanks so much, and I hope you got some thought-provoking insights out of this. Remember, just some more things to keep those wheels spinning. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.